Summer 1951. Hôtel de Paris, Monte Carlo. A wheelchair rolls through the lobby. In it sits a 77-year-old woman. Red corkscrew curls, wheelchair bound from arthritis, years of weight gain from inertia. Sipping a cocktail. This is Colette, France's greatest living author, writer of 50 novels, creator of Gigi, and she's hunting. Not for characters, not for inspiration, for the girl who will become her Gigi on Broadway. She's been searching across France for months. A compulsive Gigi spotter shouting, "There she is, my Gigi," at random women on streets and cafes and theaters. Her husband Maurice rolls his eyes. She's seeing Gigis everywhere, awake and asleep, young and old, none of them right. Then the wheelchair hits film equipment wires, gets tangled, stops. And while Maurice untangles the chair, Colette watches the chaos. Film crew running, actors chatting, equipment scattered. And there, in the middle of it all, a slim, dark-haired girl making the most of the confusion. Having fun. Being alive. 22 years old. Unknown. Playing a tiny role in a forgettable film called Monte Carlo Baby. And Colette whispers, "Voila, there's your Gigi." This is the story of how destiny found Audrey Hepburn. How an aging author in a wheelchair saw what Hollywood couldn't. How one moment in a hotel lobby changed cinema forever. This is the truth about the Colette prophecy. 1873, Saint-Sauveur en Puisaye, France. A girl is born to a tax collector and his wife. They name her Sidonie Gabrielle Colette. She grows up wild in the French countryside, climbing trees, playing with animals, writing stories. Her childhood becomes the basis for her most famous work decades later. The Claudine novels. Autobiographical stories that scandalize France and make her fortune. But that's still years away. First, she has to escape her childhood. First, she has to survive her first marriage. First, she has to become Colette. 1874. 20-year-old Colette marries Henri Gauthier Villard, a music critic, a writer, what they call a literary charlatan and degenerate. He's 14 years older. He's already published. He sees opportunity in his young wife's writing talent. He locks her in a room for 4 hours every day, makes her write, takes her manuscripts, publishes them under his nom de plume Willie. The Claudine series becomes a sensation. 4 novels, bestsellers. Everyone thinks Willie wrote them. Colette gets nothing. Not credit, not money, not respect, just more days locked in that room writing for her husband's glory. This goes on for 13 years. 13 years of creative theft, of being used, of watching someone else take credit for her genius. Until 1906, when Colette finally leaves. She's 33, starting over, broke, unknown under her own name. Everything she wrote belongs legally to Willie. So she does the only thing she can. She starts performing. Paris Music Halls, 1906. Colette becomes a mime, a dancer. She performs in costume, sometimes barely dressed for that era. Scandalous for a woman of her background. But she needs money, and she's done being controlled. She begins a relationship with Mathilde de Morny, the Marquise de Belleboeuf, daughter of Napoleon III's brother. They call her Missy. Colette and Missy perform together. They kiss on stage. In 1907, in Paris. The scandal is enormous. Police threaten to shut down the show. But Colette doesn't care anymore about what society thinks. She's lived as a prisoner. She's lived as a ghostwriter. Now she's living as herself. And she keeps writing, this time under her own name, just Colette, World War II. Nazi-occupied Paris. Colette is 67 years old. Her arthritis is getting worse. Moving is painful. But she's still writing, and she writes Gigi, a novella about a young girl in turn-of-the-century Paris, being groomed by her grandmother and aunt to become a courtesan. A woman who pleases men sexually for money and gifts. It's risque. It's controversial. It's vintage Colette, taking something scandalous and making it human, making it real, making it beautiful in its honesty about how women survived in a world that gave them few options. The book is published in 1944. It becomes a success. And by 1950, American producers want to adapt it for Broadway. Playwright Anita Loos is hired. Producer Gilbert Miller signs on. They need Colette's approval. They need her to agree to a toned-down version for American audiences. Less sex, more romance. Colette agrees. On one condition, she gets to choose who plays Gigi. The producers think this is fine. What harm could it do? The casting process begins. Auditions, screen tests. Beautiful young actresses parading through. Colette rejects them all. None of them have it. That thing she's looking for, that quality she saw in herself as a girl, wild, free, unpolished but luminous. She becomes obsessed. Everywhere she goes, she's looking. There she is. No, wait, not her. That one, no, no, no. Her husband Maurice tries to be patient. Colette, my dear, perhaps you should let the professionals handle this. But Colette knows what she knows. She wrote Gigi. She created this character from her own memories of French girlhood. She'll recognize her Gigi when she sees her. She just hasn't seen her yet. Spring 1951. Colette and Maurice travel to Monaco, the Hôtel de Paris Monte Carlo. They've been spending winters there for 5 years now. Colette's arthritis is bad. The Mediterranean climate helps. Or at least that's what the doctors say. Really, it's just less painful than Paris. Colette is 77, wheelchair-bound, her body betraying her even as her mind stays sharp. She's gained weight from inactivity, can't move like she used to, can't climb trees or run through countryside or dance in music halls. But she can still watch, still observe, still see. And that's what she does. Watches the world from her wheelchair in the hotel lobby, sipping cocktails, noting everything, the way people move, the way they speak, the way they exist when they think nobody's watching. Summer, 1951. A small British film crew arrives at the Hôtel de Paris. They're shooting Monte Carlo Baby, a forgettable comedy. The kind of minor production that fills out the bottom half of double bills. Nobody will remember this film. It'll be released in America under a different title. It'll disappear. But right now, it's employing actors who need work. Among them, a 22-year-old named Audrey Hepburn. Born in Brussels, raised in Nazi-occupied Netherlands, survived the hunger winter of 1944, eating tulip bulbs. Ballet training cut short by malnutrition, moved to London. Chorus girl in West End revues, bit parts in British films, One Wild Oat, Laughter in Paradise, Young Wives' Tale, The Lavender Hill Mob, small roles, lines here and there, nothing that makes her stand out, nothing that suggests stardom. She's pretty in an unusual way, not the conventional beauty of movie stars. Too thin, eyes too big, eyebrows too heavy, neck too long, not what Hollywood looks for. Just another working actress taking whatever parts she can get. Her mother, Baroness Ella von Heemstra, agreed to come along to Monaco. The studio is paying her way. Audrey is excited because her character gets to wear a Dior gown. Real couture. That's more exciting to her than the role. She's a nobody. She knows it. She expects nothing. The day of the discovery. Colette is being wheeled through the lobby. The film crew has equipment everywhere. Lights, cameras, cables snaking across marble floors. The wheelchair hits a wire, gets tangled. Maurice stops, starts untangling. It's taking time. Colette sits there, patient. She's spent decades learning patience, watching the commotion, film people rushing around, all very important, all very busy. Then she sees her. A girl, dark hair, moving through the chaos. Not rushing, not stressed, playing, making the most of this unplanned moment. There's something about the way she moves, like a deer, like water, graceful without trying, natural. The girl laughs at something. The sound carries, pure, unself-conscious. Colette leans forward, stares. Maurice is still working on the wires. Colette doesn't notice. She's watching this girl. Really watching. The way she holds herself, slender as swamp reeds Colette will write later. Ease and grace of movement such as a doe might envy. But it's more than that. It's something in the face, something in the energy, something that reminds Colette of herself at that age. Before marriage, before being locked in rooms, before learning what the world did to free spirits. This girl has it. That thing, that quality. And Colette knows. She just knows. Voila. There's your Gigi. She says it out loud. Maurice looks up. What? That girl. Find out who she is. Maurice is used to this. His wife seeing Gigi's everywhere. But there's something different in her voice this time. Something certain. So he asks around. The girl's name is Audrey Hepburn. She's nobody. Bit player. Maurice reports this back. Colette doesn't care. Get her. I want to meet her. But she's inexperienced, Maurice says. She's never had a lead role. She's perfect, Colette says. Trust me. If you're enjoying this investigation into Hollywood's darkest secrets, don't forget to subscribe to Audrey Hepburn, The Hidden Truth, because we're just getting started with what they covered up. The meeting. Someone from the film crew approaches Audrey. Madame Colette would like to speak with you. Audrey is confused. Colette, the writer? Yes. Why? Just come. Audrey goes, nervous. She's read Colette's books. This is France's greatest living author, a legend. What could she possibly want with a chorus girl from London? The wheelchair, the red curls, the piercing eyes studying Audrey like a specimen. Sit down, dear, Colette says. Audrey sits. I'm adapting my novel Gigi for Broadway, Colette says. I've been looking for someone to play the lead. I think you're perfect. Audrey laughs. You're joking. I'm not, Colette says. But I can't act, Audrey says. The words tumbling out. I've never had a lead role. I've barely had any roles at all. I'm just a dancer. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm not experienced enough. Colette watches this panic, this fear, this lack of confidence, and she recognizes it. She remembers being 20, being told she couldn't write, being locked in a room, forced to prove she could. Fear can be useful, Colette says, if you let it push you forward instead of holding you back. But I don't know how to act, Audrey repeats. Nonsense, Colette says. Everyone acts, every day. You've been acting your whole life. Now you'll just do it on a stage with people watching. But what if I fail? Audrey asks. Then you fail, Colette says. And you learn, and you try again. That's how life works. You don't get anywhere by being too afraid to move. Audrey sits with this. She wants to say no. Every instinct tells her to say no. This is too big, too fast, too impossible. But something in Colette's eyes, something in the way this old woman in a wheelchair looked at her, like she saw something Audrey doesn't see in herself. "I need to think about it," Audrey finally says. Of course, Colette says, "But don't think too long. Broadway won't wait forever, and neither will I." Audrey goes back to the film set, her mind racing. She finds Marcel Gallio, a character actor in the film, someone older, someone with experience, someone who might understand. "I've been offered a role," she tells him, "a big role, on Broadway. The lead, me." "Marcel, what should I do? I don't know if I can do it." Marcel looks at her, studies her the way Colette did. "Follow your instincts," he says. "If it feels right, it will be right." These 11 words, Audrey will remember them for 40 years. She'll mention them in interviews, how they became her North Star, how they guided her through every difficult decision, how Marcel Gallio gave her the best advice she ever received that day in Monte Carlo. Audrey thinks for days. Colette is patient. She's waited this long, she can wait a bit more. But she sends word. "Come to Paris, visit me. Let's talk more." Audrey agrees. July 1951. Paris, her first time in the city. She's been raised in Europe, but somehow never made it to Paris. She takes the train from London, stays with friends, nervous about meeting Colette again, about seeing the apartment, about making a decision that could change everything. 9 Rue de Beaujolais, Palais Royal. Colette's apartment. Audrey arrives dressed in black. Black sweater, black slacks, leather belt, black gloves, like the beatnik poets along the Seine, someone will say later. She looks like a boy, Colette thinks. A beautiful boy. All angles and edges, no curves, no conventional femininity. Perfect. She climbs the old stairway. Colette is waiting. She wrote in her diary later. "But I never expected to see her armed with as much patience as if she were waiting expressly for me on the old stairway of my Palais Royal apartment." This dark, charming girl, slender as swamp reeds of my native province, with ease and grace of movement such as a doe might envy, the combination of boyish appearance and charming disposition. Exactly what Colette imagined for Gigi. They talk for hours about the role, about the story, about what Gigi means. She's not just a courtesan, Colette explains. She's a girl learning to survive in a world that wants to use her, learning to keep some part of herself free, even while playing the game. "You understand this," Colette says. "I can see it in you. You've survived things. You've learned to protect yourself while still staying open. That's what I need. Not technical acting skill. That can be taught. I need the truth of it, the reality underneath. And you have that." Audrey listens. Something's shifting inside her. Maybe Colette is right. Maybe she can do this. Maybe the fact that she's terrified means she should try. She thinks about Marcel's words. Follow your instincts. If it feels right, it will be right. And this feels. It feels like destiny. Like something that was always going to happen. Like Colette's wheelchair getting caught in those wires wasn't an accident. Like their eyes meeting in that lobby was meant to be. "I'll do it," Audrey says. Colette smiles. She knew. She always knew. Now the world would know too. The press agent, Richard Maney, sees the potential immediately. Broadway's most celebrated press agent, working on behalf of Gigi. And he has gold, an unknown girl, plucked from obscurity, discovered by France's greatest writer, spotted in a hotel lobby in Monte Carlo. It's perfect. Too perfect. It doesn't matter that Audrey has actually been working steadily for years, that she's done ballet performances in packed theaters during the war, that she's performed in West End revues for 2 years, that she's had lines in several films. The story's better if she's a complete nobody. If she didn't know anything about acting. If she'd never said a word on a stage before. If Colette saw raw talent where no one else did. So that's the story they tell. And it works. The press eats it up. The public loves it. Cinderella discovered by a fairy godmother. From nobody to Broadway star overnight. Destiny and prophecy and magic. It's not quite true, but it's true enough. And it sells tickets. November 24th, 1951. Fulton Theater, Broadway, New York. Opening night of Gigi. Audrey is terrified. More terrified than she's ever been. This is her first lead role. Her name is on the marquee, in lights. When she saw it, she said, "Oh dear, and I've still got to learn how to act." She means it. She still doesn't believe she knows what she's doing. Still doesn't believe Colette was right. Still thinks this might be a massive mistake. The curtain rises. Audrey steps into the spotlight. And something happens. She stops being Audrey. She becomes Gigi. The girl from turn-of-the-century Paris, learning to be a courtesan. The girl trying to keep her soul while playing a role. The girl who is and isn't like Audrey. It works. Everything Colette saw, everything she believed. It's there, luminous on stage, natural and perfect and exactly right. The reviews the next day confirm it. Audrey Hepburn is extraordinary, fresh, different, special. The play is a hit. It runs for 219 performances. Ending May 31st, 1952, 7 months, 8 shows a week, standing ovations. Audrey wins the Theatre World Award. She's launched. Suddenly, everyone in New York knows her name. Suddenly, Hollywood is calling. Suddenly, she's not a nobody anymore. All because a 77-year-old woman in a wheelchair saw something no one else saw. Back in Paris, Colette reads the reviews, receives updates. She's proven right. Her instinct, her eye, her prophecy. The girl she spotted in that hotel lobby is exactly what she thought. A star. Colette writes to Audrey, sends her inscribed photographs. One reads, "Pour Audrey Hepburn trésor que j'ai trouvé sur une plage." To Audrey Hepburn, a treasure that I found on a beach. Audrey keeps this photograph for the rest of her life. Treasures it. Because Colette gave her something no one else could. Belief. Permission. The courage to try. Roman holiday. While Gigi is running on Broadway, Paramount Pictures notices Audrey. They're making a film about a princess who escapes royal duty for one day of adventure in Rome. They need someone for the lead, someone fresh, someone unknown enough to be believable, someone who can play royal and real at the same time. They offer it to Audrey. She accepts. Films during the day while performing Gigi at night. Exhausting. Exhilarating. Roman Holiday opens in 1953. Audrey as Princess Anne. Gregory Peck as the reporter who falls for her. The film is magic. Audrey is magic. Critics rave. Audiences fall in love. And the Academy notices Best Actress nomination for her first major film role. March 1954. The Academy Awards. Audrey wins Best Actress for Roman Holiday. At 24. Unknown 3 years ago. Broadway star 2 years ago. Oscar winner now. She does the 1954 ceremony after performing in Ondine on Broadway that same evening. Rushes from the theater to the ceremony. Wins the Oscar. Then months later wins the Tony for Ondine. Oscar and Tony in the same year. Unprecedented. All because Colette's wheelchair got caught in some wires in a Monaco hotel lobby. But Colette isn't done with Audrey's career yet. 1953. Hollywood wants to adapt Gigi into a musical film. They want Audrey for the lead. She turned down the stage musical. Now they want her for the film. Colette writes to her, "Do this one," she says. "This is your story, your beginning." Audrey thinks about it. But she's committed to Sabrina, then to other projects. The timing never works. So Gigi, the 1958 film, stars Leslie Caron instead. Directed by Vincente Minnelli, music by Lerner and Lowe. It wins 9 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. It becomes a classic. But Audrey is fine with missing it, because Colette gave her something better. Colette gave her Roman Holiday. Colette gave her everything that came after. Sabrina, War and Peace, Funny Face, Love in the Afternoon, The Nun Story, Breakfast at Tiffany's, My Fair Lady, Wait Until Dark. All of it traces back to that moment in Monaco, to Colette saying, "Voila." August 3rd, 1954, Paris. Colette dies at her Palais Royal apartment, 81 years old. Maurice by her side. She's lived an extraordinary life. Survived an abusive marriage, reinvented herself, became France's greatest woman writer, published 50 novels, became the first woman in France to be given a state funeral. 6,000 people show up to pay respects. Audrey is filming Sabrina. She can't attend, but she sends flowers, sends her grief, sends her gratitude. February 1955. Audrey visits Paris, makes time to see Maurice, pays her respects. Colette reportedly left Audrey jewelry in her will. A final gift. August 1955. Audrey returns for the 1-year anniversary of Colette's death. A mass at a small chapel outside Paris. Maurice Chevalier is there, Jean Cocteau, others whose lives Colette touched. Audrey sits quietly, remembering. That wheelchair in the lobby, those piercing eyes, that voice saying, "You can do this. Trust me." The legacy. Audrey's career spans 40 years, from 1951 to 1991. 18 films, 5 Oscar nominations, 1 win. Countless iconic moments. The little black dress in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Moon River, the ascot scene in My Fair Lady. Wait Until Dark's terror. And it all starts with Colette. With being seen. With someone believing in her before she believed in herself. Audrey says in interviews over the years that she always trusted her instincts, that Marcel Gallio's words became her North Star. Follow your instincts. If it feels right, it will be right. This guides her through every decision, which roles to take, which to turn down, when to step back from fame, when to devote herself to UNICEF, when to retire, when to return. The instinct Colette saw in her, the quality that made her special. She learns to trust it. The portrait. Among Audrey's possessions until her death in 1993. The inscribed photograph from Colette. A treasure that I found on a beach. It's not quite accurate. Colette found Audrey in a hotel lobby, not on a beach. But the meaning is clear. A treasure. Something precious discovered by chance. Or not by chance. By destiny. By fate. By whatever force made that wheelchair hit those wires at that exact moment. Made Colette look up at that exact second. Made their eyes meet across a chaotic lobby. Made Colette recognize what no one else saw. A star. A treasure. A Gigi. The mythology. Over decades, the story gets polished. Smoothed. Made into legend. Unknown girl discovered by famous author. Never acted before. Instant Broadway star. It's not quite true. Audrey had experience, had trained, had worked. But it's true enough. True in the ways that matter. Because yes, she'd performed, but never like this. Never as a lead, never carrying a show. Never with her name in lights. Colette didn't discover someone who could act. Colette discovered someone who could be a star. There's a difference. Technical skill can be taught. Stage presence can be developed. But that quality, that thing that makes audiences unable to look away, that's either there or it isn't. And Colette saw it was there. In a 22-year-old nobody in a Monaco hotel lobby. She saw it. She bet on it. She was right. The what-ifs. What if Colette hadn't been in Monaco that summer? What if the wheelchair hadn't hit those wires? What if Audrey had been in a different part of the lobby? What if Colette had blinked at the wrong moment? What if Audrey had said no? Stuck with her fear? Refused the role? Where would Audrey Hepburn's career be? Would there be an Audrey Hepburn at all, or would she have remained an unknown working actress in minor British films? Taking chorus roles, earning enough to survive, never becoming legendary, never becoming iconic, never becoming Audrey Hepburn as the world knows her. One moment, one chance encounter, one elderly woman's conviction. That's all it took. That's all it ever takes. The difference between obscurity and immortality. The irony. Colette spent 13 years having her work stolen. Her husband publishing her novels under his name. Taking her glory. Taking her money. Taking her credit. She knows what it's like to be unseen. To have your talent overlooked. To be dismissed. So when she sees Audrey, this unknown girl, this nobody, she doesn't dismiss her, doesn't overlook her, doesn't see inexperience. She sees what could be, what will be, what must be, and she uses her power, her fame, her influence to give Audrey what no one gave her, a chance, recognition, belief. It's redemption for both of them. Colette gets to be the fairy godmother she never had. Audrey gets to be the Cinderella Colette once was, unseen until the right person looked. The full circle. 1988. Audrey becomes UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador. She's 59, her acting career winding down, but she's found a new purpose, helping children. Visiting countries devastated by famine, Ethiopia, Somalia, Sudan, Bangladesh. She sees children starving, remembers being that child. 88 pounds, eating tulip bulbs, nearly dying in the hunger winter. I know what hunger looks like, she says. I was one of these children, so she dedicates her final years to saving them. It's another kind of performance, another kind of role. But it's the most important one, and it traces back to Colette, to being seen, to someone powerful using their influence to help someone vulnerable. Colette saw Audrey. Audrey sees these children. The circle closes. The prophecy completes. January 20th, 1993. Audrey dies in her sleep. 63 years old. Cancer. Surrounded by family. 42 years after Colette found her. 42 years of an extraordinary career. Of iconic performances. Of being Audrey Hepburn. It all started with a wheelchair hitting some wires. With a woman who knew what she was looking for, even if no one else did. With a prophecy that came true because someone believed it would. Among Audrey's possessions, the photograph from Colette, a treasure that I found on a beach, found by chance, kept by choice. Proof that sometimes destiny needs help. Sometimes fate needs someone to notice. Sometimes prophecy is just another word for seeing what's really there. The lesson. Hollywood passed on Audrey initially. Too thin, eyes too big, not conventional, not what they were looking for. But Colette wasn't looking for conventional. Colette was looking for truth, for reality, for something that reminded her of herself, wild and free and unpolished. And she found it, in a girl who didn't believe in herself, in a nobody who became everybody, in Audrey Hepburn. Before she was Audrey Hepburn, when she was just a scared 22-year-old in a hotel lobby, being seen for the first time, really seen, by someone who understood what it meant to be unseen, by someone who recognized a treasure, even on a beach, even in a lobby, even when no one else was looking. Colette saw. Colette knew. Colette was right. That's prophecy. That's destiny. That's how Audrey Hepburn became Audrey Hepburn. Because a 77-year-old woman in a wheelchair looked up at exactly the right moment and said, "Voila. This is Audrey Hepburn, the hidden truth." From wartime horrors to Hollywood secrets, we uncover what they've been hiding for decades. Subscribe to discover the dark truth behind the elegant image.